Hey everyone, so I want to talk about a little bit of prep that'll help get you started with your collage on for our class. It would be a good idea to go ahead and prep your fabrics and get them cut into squares or cut out your motifs. So if you look at your pattern, like I have the sewing machine here, I measured like how large some of these pieces were going to be. Like the sewing machine itself is 11 by 10 and this little piece is 1 by 5. And that way I kind of had an idea of how big a chunk of fabric I would need. In some cases, like with the little trailer here, there's going to be multiple pieces, so I didn't worry so much about measuring this whole thing. I just measured how long it was to make sure my pieces were going to be big enough to go across. But what you want to do is you want to get a couple of measurements that are kind of loose, round up a little bit. They don't need to be exact. And then take your fabrics and you want to cut them into chunks. So if this is part of my motif for my trailer, this might be a chunk that I'm going to use for my flower. Then I have some smaller little chunks that I'm going to use to build the collage around the trailer. The chunks you might want to be about the same size, so then when you're putting it with your steam-a-seam 2, you're able to not waste too much of your steam-a-seam. So having your chunks be of similar size helps, but sometimes you may have, like, this piece is really long because it's the grass that goes along the bottom. But if you go ahead and cut your fabric into chunks, it'll save you a lot of time in class. Go ahead and think about your background fabrics, cut those into similar sizes. Like these are all going to be backgrounds, so they're all a similar size. I would go ahead and bring any fabrics that you don't cut into chunks, just in case you decide you want more of something as you're working on your collage. And then for your motifs, for example, like I'm going to use these clouds. If I decide to use these clouds, and I've just kind of cut them in kind of a crazy shape, so I make sure I get all the different clouds. This one, I've got all the different little flowers, so I've cut it kind of around. So you will have a couple, if they're motifs, you'll cut a big chunk, and it might be a kind of a crazy cut around the chunk, so you're getting as much of that motif in there as possible. Do not worry about cutting each of these out individually. We will do that as we're building the collage, but if you want to cut kind of a big piece that will fit within your steam-a-seam size, then that is a good idea to go ahead and get that started. So you want to measure out your pattern to make sure you're going to have some large enough pieces to cover some of the major areas of the pattern. Cut those into chunks that will work within that pattern. Cut all of your main fabrics that are going to be part of your main picture. Cut your background fabrics into sizes that kind of coordinate. Cut your motifs into like a usable piece. Like these, I'm just going to use this little dog and this little rainbow, so they're kind of small, weird little pieces, and that's okay. You don't want too many like this because it'll end up wasting some of your steam-a-seam, but they're the ones that kind of add all the fun little whimsy to your collage. If you do that ahead of time for class, then you will have a lot more time to actually work on your collage and get your collage built before class ends. All right, see you soon. Bye.